Hello and welcome to the Big Time Strength Podcast, featuring small school strength coaches making the big time where they're at. This week, our host, Coach Preston Peterson, brings to you a high school strength coach who is doing it big time in the high school setting. We really appreciate you guys tuning in, and I hope you enjoy this week's show.
Before we get to the show, I'd like to thank our sponsors. The first one is TeamBuildr. Thank you, TeamBuildr, for sponsoring today's episode. TeamBuildr is the leading software for high schools and colleges by providing coaches the ability to write programs online, generate over 13 reports, and even train athletes remotely for side income. Right now, if you sign up with the code BigTime, you'll receive a free APRE programming template, which works automatically within TeamBuildr. No more spreadsheets and workout cards to track training maxes that change day by day. You can automate your programming without outsourcing your programming with TeamBuildr. It is an awesome software. The guys at TeamBuildr have it going on. Hewitt is an awesome resource for everybody that is a high school strength and conditioning coach. There's not enough great things I can say about TeamBuildr and everything that they're doing for coaches around the nation. Our second sponsor for today's show is PowerLift. PowerLift is the leading manufacturer and distributor of heavy-duty strength training equipment for collegiate and high school athletic performance centers around the world. PowerLift brings over 20 years of experience to the strength and conditioning world, and all the products are manufactured in the state-of-the-art manufacturing facility in Jefferson, Iowa. They are proud to support all coaches making it big time where they're at, and I cannot say enough great things about these two sponsors. PowerLift in general, from my college days to where I'm at now, PowerLift has been our rack. I'm telling you guys, there is not a more durable rack out there. If you go to Northwest Missouri State, you check out the racks there. They've had them probably for close to 15, 20 years now, and they still look like they're brand new. The racks that we have within our weight room, nice, pristine. It does not show wear and tear at all. And the thing about it is when you buy PowerLift, you are getting heavy duty. This stuff is rugged and it will last. And when you're looking for training equipment that's going to be used by multiple teams, multiple student athletes every single day, it's important to have the best. So thank you to our sponsors, TeamBuildr and PowerLift. Now let's get to our show.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Big Time Strength Podcast. We're actually doing something a little bit different this time. So you guys, if you've been listening into any of the clinic podcasts that we've been doing with strength and football and just doing our clinic that was supposed to be on the 28th in a different way, we actually decided to start doing our podcast over video now too. So if you want to log on to YouTube, there will be a possibility where coaches will show some stuff, if it's going to be a screen share, whatever that looks like. So I'll always indicate that even in the audio version, I'll just let you know where you can go to find that. But it's still going to be our normal audio deal. You can listen to it just the way that you always have. And I'm just excited to do this. I think it's going to be a cool option for us. And other than me just like standing, walking around, listening to people, that type of stuff on the phone, now I get to actually see their face. So I'm hoping Coach Hildebrandt will be a great starter for us with that. So to intro him, Coach, I got to know Coach. It's probably been a little over a year now, maybe a little bit more than that. I've been following his stuff, and really it's super intriguing to me because there's two kind of let's say sides that you could be on, maybe not even sides, but two ways. And that's kind of like a strength foundation or a speed foundation. And one of the things that I started to look at and really start to think about is what drives the other one or vice versa. And so I was following Ben and got to learn a little bit about, it was some agility stuff, some change of direction stuff, and some speed work stuff was all the things that I was seeing from him. And then I met with him a couple of times now, got to talk to him at clinics and stuff. And just a great guy to challenge the way that you think, to make sure that we understand that there's more to athletic development than just strength and what that looks like. So really excited to have Coach on. Coach, to get us started here, can you give us your background? How did you get to where you're at? And kind of give us the roadmap of how your thought process started to become formulated.
Yep. So actually, I think it was when I was in 7th or 8th grade, our school just happened to have these stack magazines. stacked the website, ton of good articles on there. That's kind of where I just happened to come across this Stack magazine that had a ton of different training articles in it and things like that. Got onto their website, and actually, I think one of the first people I started to listen to on there and kind of read stuff from was Kurt Hester. I know you guys had him on here. I listened to that a little bit ago. That's kind of where I first started with all of this, I guess. And then going into high school, was fortunate enough to have a guy, which we both know here, I'll mention his name here in a second, that kind of introduced me to strength and conditioning, but not just strength and conditioning in the weight room, different speed stuff. And he was just getting started as well. His name's actually Dave Jenkins, which we both know him. I was fortunate enough to have him as a high school PE teacher. And then we actually got like an athlete development class kind of started. I remember doing things in the gym with him, whether it was med ball throws, whether we attached some resistance bands to a volleyball standard in the middle of the gym and did sprints or broad jumps off of it. So that's kind of where I got started high school wise, and he'd open the weight room for us in the morning. I think there's a couple of days where I wouldn't show up in the mornings and he'd still show up there for me. But all around great guy. He kind of got me in, I kind of started into it. And then going from there, going to college, I always knew that I wanted to do something sports related. Didn't really know what I could do, what it would be. Started off as originally wanted to be a physical therapist. Then just didn't end up kind of how I wanted it to be. Got a degree in human health science, and 3 days before the graduation, after my name was on the commencement list and everything, I decided to add education. So I added education to my degree, went to school for an extra 2 years, and I just graduated last spring. But while I was doing that, I got started interning with Michael Zweifel at Building Better Athletes. So he's kind of my number one mentor and the guy that I've learned pretty much everything I know from. In a very short time there, I would say like I learned more there with him than I did all through college in just like a week or 2 weeks. So he's kind of my main resource and one of the guys that I go to if I need advice or anything like that, strength and conditioning, speed-wise. So I'm very fortunate to have him. And then also while I was going to UD, after I interned with Michael for 6 months, he asked me to kind of stay around and help. And obviously I was all for that. Just to learn from him and be around him was awesome. And I knew that was an opportunity that I couldn't pass up. Then my sister was actually on the track team at UD. So I reached out to Coach Gunnelson at the University of Dubuque. He's one of the best guys I know. I was fortunate enough that he allowed me to come on his staff and help out with the sprints there at University of Dubuque. So I got to coach under him for a couple of years. And then that's kind of where my love for track and field kind of took off. I was always kind of interested in speed, not just from Michael, just going back to high school. I was never a great athlete by any means. I was always decently fast, but never fast enough I didn't have like that elite level of speed, and I always wanted to get it. And I just could never figure out how. So I was kind of passionate about learning how to get faster. I was actually just going through Facebook the other day. I found pictures of myself running at the state track meet, and I was running down the backstretch, and I just looked like I was embarrassed to even look at the pictures because my form was so bad. Hopefully my athletes don't ever find that and call me out for it. But yeah, so that's kind of where I got started, and I was fortunate enough to have Michael and Chad kind of let me kind of grow and learn from them while I was going through college. Now I'm at Midland. Got accepted for a job there during student teaching last spring. Went in right away, and I'm there. I voluntarily help with football, coach basketball, coach track, coach junior high baseball, and then run our strength and kind of speed program at the school.
That's awesome, Coach. And you kind of talked about your background and where you started to formulate how you're tying all this stuff together. And you talked about how could you actually build that elite level speed and what that looks like for training for your athletes now, just from watching you on social media and talking with you and you taking us through a few things. I started to think, man, this is some solid stuff. So can you give us a rundown of maybe your training philosophy? And I tell the coaches, this is a broad term, but however you want to answer that question, what do you look at training and how would you describe that?
Yep. So, yeah, it's always changing. So it's such a hard question because I don't feel like I have anything like set in stone. But kind of when I was thinking about how I would answer this, the best thing that I can put into words in my mind is kind of the obvious that we always hear strength coaches: the squat, hinge, push, pull, rotate, carry, all that, sprint, change direction. But in my philosophy, it does revolve around that. Just to do all those different things at different times of the year at different speeds, whether it be a heavy lift, a fast lift, eccentric and isometric, and different things like that. But to do those with, and this is kind of where I've kind of picked up from Michael and what he's been doing, and just to do things with variability in how we do them and how we do everything. All right, put athletes into situations and environments where they can be successful, but also struggle and learn from those things. I think that's the biggest thing, is give them things where they can feel confident and succeed. If they're like, I've had kids at Midland that love to clean, they love to squat heavy, they love to deadlift. And I mean, whether or not that's part of my philosophy or not, if they love that, then I should be letting them do that. If that's what they feel comfortable doing, I can let them succeed that way. But I also think that I need to find things that they'll struggle with, that they can learn from, and hopefully that can improve their speed, their strength, whatever it may be. So that's kind of my philosophy around training, just to find different things that athletes can do to struggle, and then things that they feel confident in and learn, and then things that they can learn from the struggles with.
One of the things that we use within class is we kind of use this graph, and we show that it's important to get out of your comfort zone, but anything that's too far out of your comfort zone, you almost shut down. And anything that's too easy, you become bored with, right? And you want to kind of be in this flow state, or this area within the graph that just shows constant growth, right? And that doesn't mean it's always linear. There's always the ups and downs and the valleys and the mountains with that. But it is the coolest thing for a coach to realize it's not always going to be the same, and to have that variability and to have that struggle and to learn from it. As much for our athletes that we want that for them, it happens with us all the time too. So I think that's such a fun deal to think through and to see where we've been at and to continue to grow. To keep on digging into that training philosophy, what are some of the programming methodologies that you use that you've had success with, or some of the things that you're learning about and you're implementing and that type of stuff?
Yeah. So, I mean, to start, linear periodization was always kind of like the thing that I would always kind of resort back to if I felt uncomfortable, if I didn't know. I never like to really do anything that I don't feel 100% comfortable in, that I don't know. So like I would always go back to linear, whether it be like, I just always go back to like a 5x5, because that's what that's just a common thing, right? And then just gradually increasing the weight. And obviously that works that'll work for most people. But when they first start, when they have a low training age, they'll adapt, they'll get stronger, they'll get faster just from doing that. But kind of as I've grown and as I've kind of started to learn more things, just kind of being like I said in my training philosophy, just making things variable. I don't really have one set methodology that I use. I'll use, I always go back to like triphasic. I'll use that, or I'll use like a short to long approach in track and field, or like Tony Holler's Feed the Cats, the different things like that. I just like kind of dip in and kind of find my own kind of way to use those things. I don't really have a specific one that I follow all the time. I'm still kind of trying to figure that out, being kind of a first year coach at a small school, and just kind of getting to know the athletes a little bit and start to build the program. But as far as like programming and methodologies and things like that, I just kind of always go back to the main people that I've been influenced by. Obviously, Michael being number one, and just kind of going off what his philosophy is and things like that. I'm not going to talk. That's Michael's philosophy. I'm not going to talk about that. But just kind of going off things that I've learned from him, track and field wise, and then even speed, strength wise in the weight room. Stu McMillan and Dan Paff at Altus. Those are kind of my two kind of go-to resources for track and field training wise, just for overall speed development and getting faster. Those are kind of the two guys that I look to the most for that. And then Max Schmarzo, who runs Strong by Science, he puts out great content all the time. But I just kind of like to kind of take things from them and try to kind of put my own twist on them. So I don't really have a set in stone programming methodology. I know that's not probably not the answer most coaches are going to look for, but just trying to find different things that work for my athletes is the biggest thing, and kind of experimenting and trying to learn as a young coach.
And from a student athlete's position, right? Like when we are experimenting and we're trying to find what works, there's going to be a little bit of struggle with that from a coach's perspective.
Yeah.
There's no doubt that they like to try new things, but at the same time, we have to stick with something long enough that we can see improvement. And sometimes, like in my experience, I like to give small doses of that new thing, whatever it is, just to see, and then have conversation after conversation with kids, do it myself, obviously, prior to all this stuff. And what I really like about that is, if we always go strictly by the science, or if we always just do what has always been done, then there's no creative aspect to it, and we're never pushing things forward. So I love coaches that are willing to say that are willing to say, I'm going to take whatever this person's doing, morph it into my own, and try it out with a couple other things. And I like that deal. And so not to reinforce everything that you're saying and say just like this has to be the way to do it, but I think every coach definitely needs a little bit of that creativity and a little bit of that willingness to try things and see if it's going to work. So
and just
I applaud you for that.
Yeah, just having that kind of set like programming methodology, and like that's something that I'm still trying to figure out. I would be lying if I came on here and said that I do triphasic, like I'm 100% try. Like no, I like to try different things. And just see how it works, see how the athletes respond to it after a certain period of time. One of the things that I haven't done enough of this year, regretfully, is I haven't really tracked too much in the weight room, which whether you believe in that or not, like max wise, whatever. I haven't really tracked too much of that. I've kind of leaned towards more of the performance side of things with sprints, broad jump, vertical, and things like that. I've kind of stuck to more of that kind of tracking stuff. I haven't tracked much in the weight room, but that's something I think I'm going to look into doing more of in the future as I kind of get things going here and kind of find a set kind of program or methodology that I really want to stick with or try out or experiment with.
So that's a conversation in itself right there. There are a ton of coaches that they'll do leaderboards, and I think leaderboards and record boards, that type of stuff, and tracking bench, squat, clean, deadlift, whatever it is, I think those are awesome things to use. Now, personally, for me, I don't use that. And we track things within the weight room, and I can have an individual, I can show their freshman to their senior year, their progression, but we do not post that. We don't do anything. If they want it, they can have it. But more so than anything, it's something for them so that they can see it. And we'll do external motivation a few other ways. And we'll absolutely do some stuff with record, rank, publish type Tony Holler type stuff with vertical jump, broad jump, sprints, stuff where there's no external load. There's no well, there's a chance for injury, but it's super, super small.
Yeah.
I believe that's where we're really going to see athletic development anyway, is how much force we can put in the ground when it's just us. So, that's something that, as you say, you want to start tracking stuff in the weight room more. From my opinion, and the way that I do it anyway, is it's good. And that's great to see progression, just like all the sprints, but it's not anything that I want to tie my identity completely to either.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, what is your vision for the next 5 years? So you're in your first year at Midland. You've got great experience coming from college, working with BBA, doing all those things, and you've kind of got an idea of where you think it should go. I guarantee it. So what's this vision for 5 years from now? What do you got going on?
So I love that question, because so just going to Midland, a small 1A school in Wyoming, Iowa, no one knows where it's at, right? So I've had a couple of kids ask me, it's like, why are you at Midland? Like, what are you doing here? Like, but my goal and my vision, I never wanted to be at a big school. Like I grew up at a small 1A school. I went to a small 2A school. I graduated from a small 2A school. And I want to be able to give to kids what, guys like Dave Jenkins gave to me. Right. And it doesn't really matter where I'm at. That doesn't even cross my mind. Right. So I'd rather if I'm at Midland for the rest of my life, then I'll love it. I'll do the best that I can there. And that's kind of a goal of mine, is just to continue to build, like kind of that buy-in from athletes, kind of learn and develop as a strength, speed coach, sport coach, and then kind of grow, like just continue to grow all of the programs there at Midland. But kind of my vision for the next 5 years would be, so in 5 years, I would say that I want all athletes in all sports to be training year round, whether it be in the weight room, sprinting, whatever it may be, just to kind of continue to build that buy-in and we've had great buy-in so far, just to continue to build that, get more kids to go out for sports, get more kids to buy into the weight room. And then so along those lines too, develop kind of a plan for fundraising, just to make sure we have the money. We actually have, our weight room is it's called the Paul Peterson Fitness Center. So it's actually off the school, but it's a great facility. If you went in there and you saw it, especially for a small 1A school, it's big, it's got open space, it's got everything that we need. And actually they've given money to buy stuff. So they do their own fundraising. They've offered to buy pretty much whatever I need, but just kind of develop some sort of fundraising plan, so I know exactly how much money we have coming in. Just to know that there's going to be money there if we needed to get something, or if a piece of equipment broke or something like that. And then just kind of go along the lines of continuing to kind of grow the program within the next 5 years. A big thing that I do in my PE classes at the high school, which they're not really strength and conditioning classes, we always do some sort of sprint every day. That's kind of how I implement speed into that. But I'd like to continue to kind of work down into the elementary program. The elementary PE teacher and I have a good relationship. He loves performance and kind of the idea of making better athletes. So just kind of continuing to talk to him and kind of build kind of the performance aspect of it down into the elementary. It's not going to be some intense performance program. It's going to be something where kids can learn, play, grow, and just kind of develop a philosophy for developing the athletes at the youth level too. Because I've had some some 4th, 5th, 6th graders come to the weight room after school and work out with the high school kids. It's not ideal, but they love to be there. They love to train. So just kind of could develop something for those kids that maybe want something like that, or they just to introduce them to different things. Like that's one of the things that I love about Michael and if anyone's ever seen his stuff, I obviously highly recommend checking out his stuff for kind of his youth development or youth programs, because I think it's awesome. Just kind of implement those things at the elementary level.
Yeah, so I've seen a few of those videos, and I've seen some elementary all the way into middle school programs that are really, really fun, really, really cool. And a good PE program is athletic development. A good PE program started off from kindergarten on, that's athletic development. And if you're really doing it well, kids are engaged, they have tons of fun, and they don't even know that they're becoming better athletes while they're playing, And yeah. It's kind of like our Mount Vernon Elementary School PE teacher. He's really, really good at that. I got to, over our January term, got to go down there and watch a few of his classes, and it's a lot of fun to be around him. He does a great job doing that. And I'm thinking, man, what a great way to start out athletic development, is just having that good relationship with exercise and wellness. Like every kid loves being in there. So I think anytime a school can get that alignment all the way from elementary to high school is awesome. And I liked what you said when you started out there. Doesn't matter where you're at, you're going to give everything that you have. And I truly appreciate that. And obviously, with the way that we run this show, that's exactly what we believe in. That's what we stand for. And I think that's such a cool deal. I just got off a phone call with my dad this morning. He's been at the same school for like 20 years and absolutely invests everything that he has into it. And that is a really, really cool thing to me. I believe that's a really awesome foundation for athletes, for students in general. So what are you excited about learning? What is the thing that you want to improve upon right now? Like for me, I want to learn more about speed development. I want to learn how to implement that in class. What about from your perspective?
So for me, it's just one of the big things that I think about all the time is how can I affect the most change in improving the athletics at our school? Is that in the weight room? Is that at track practice? What is that? And just me, just volunteering to coach football, and coaching basketball, coaching track, junior high baseball. We got some pretty good coaches at Midland, and it's cool to be around. But one of the big things for me that I want to continue to learn about and improve on would just be kind of learning the different nuances of every sport. And a lot of this comes from Michael Zweifel too, and what he's doing and what Sean Mishka and Tyler Yerby are doing with emergence. Just learning different things about every sport of every athlete that I'll work with, right? So helping them improve in their sporting skills or their tactical knowledge of the sport, I think will help me big time as a speed and strength coach, right? Because I can't just having them in the weight room or having them on the track, especially at a small school. I mean, you can only do so much in there, right? So I want to be able to help them, whether it be at football practice, whether it be with a basketball skill, baseball practice, whatever it may be, right? So that's kind of one of the things that I want to continue to grow on as a strength performance coach.
And maybe flowing into this next question, what are your favorite professional development resources, maybe for that specific thing or just in general?
Yeah.
Go for it. Sorry.
The one that that I've probably spent the most time on would be Altus 360 with that's run by Altus, obviously, and just learning from Stu and Dan. We went down to Phoenix a couple of years ago and kind of got to be in that training environment for a few days and kind of see and learn from them about what they're doing and things like that. So I use Altus 360 a lot. And I've used that a lot in the past. I've probably spent the most time on that. They've got a ton of great resources on there, whether it be sprint wise. They've had different guests, things like that. It's not always sprint related. So it's like Sean Mishka's been on there. They just have different guests like Kelly Starrett. And so there's a ton of different topics. They post them all on there. I think it's $10 a month just to go watch as many videos as you want. So that's kind of one of the main professional development ones that I go to. And then I'm a big fan of Max Schmarzo and Strong by Science. I get notifications anytime he posts anything, so I completely nerd out over his stuff. So I think they've got a new platform out, or they do, because I've signed up for it, but it's called EdgeU, where they post a ton of different training things like that, training resources and things like that. And he's partnered with Paul, I don't know how to say his last name, Paul Fabritz, however, PJF Performance is his name on Instagram and Twitter, but that's one of the other main ones that I use. And then anything Michael posts, Michael's kind of my main professional development resource. I use him however I can just to learn whatever from. And he's obviously a big part of Emergence. So just going through their course underpinnings and learning from them and learning what they're putting out and things like that's awesome.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to listen to him at the NHS SCA Iowa clinic, and just I'd seen a lot of stuff that he had put out. I'd seen some conversations that he had kind of just pushing people in the way of how they think. And then when I got to actually listen to what he was talking about, it really changed my mindset of how I thought about change of direction, agility, athlete development, what we're actually doing day in and day out as a strength and speed coach. And that was a lot of fun. And, I hear a ton of people talk about Altus. I'm going to have to check it out at some point now.
Yeah,
actually pull the trigger to do it.
And
then, one of the things that I want to know the most from you is why coaching sprints and speed development should be a priority in youth development and high school development. Give me the rundown for that.
So this is kind of one of the main things that I'm passionate about as a strength coach and just as a person in general is the development of speed. Like I said, I struggled with it kind of growing up and getting faster. So actually I was listening to your podcast on BigTime Strength earlier today. And I think I don't know who you got it from or where it comes from, but build a bigger base so you can have a higher peak, right? So if you start at a younger age of kind of teaching these things, whether it be sprint mechanics, whatever it may be, just teaching kids how to move better or move with better quality or move more efficiently, they're going to get faster. They're going to get stronger. They're going to pick up on movement patterns that are going to help them be successful in whatever they decide to do, whether it be picking up a laundry basket when they get older or kicking a football, whatever it may be, anything skill related, right? So if we start to build that base at a younger age and we start to teach those things when kids are, upper level elementary or even middle school, whatever it may be, it just allows you to have a higher peak, right? So I guess I'm just so passionate about that because I think if you look at most programs or most elite athletes, kind of the one thing that separates, the average athlete from the elite athlete, one of the determining factors is either one, their speed, right? Because there's a certain level of speed that you have to have, whether it be playing wide receiver in the NFL, right? You can't run a 5.040 and play receiver in the NFL, right? It's tough, right? See, there's a certain level of speed that you have to have. And then obviously there's a ton of other things that go into it, like the tactical knowledge and knowledge of the sport, the skill development and everything like that. But the speed aspect of it is so big, right? If you don't have it, then you're screwed in a sense, because there's no way for you to be successful at the higher level you get to, right? I think that's what separates, whether it goes from class 1A to class 4A, right? Class 4A, there's going to be kids who have either played more sports or played their sport more, whether it be basketball, but they're going to have a majority of athletes that are more athletic or faster than the schools that are 1A, right? Then going into the higher level, Division 3, Division 2, Division 1, and then getting up to the pro level, its speed is such a big component. I think that if we start to emphasize that at a younger age, then one, we can help reduce injuries, we can improve movement quality, and then that'll just kind of keep growing and growing until kids get faster and faster.
That's great. And if I've listened up to this point, as an audience or myself in general, I want to know what is your secret sauce for building speed? What does that look like, not only for a week, but let's say a cycle, and then maybe into a year? How do you look at this? You mentioned earlier that you wanted all athletes to train year round. What's it look like?
Yeah. So just emphasizing speed right from the get-go, right? Teaching acceleration, teaching max velocity, whether it be through different acceleration type drills or max velocity type drills, just kind of introducing kids to those. But I think the biggest thing that has helped me as a speed coach, I guess, is one, just watching how kids sprint, watching how kids move, watching what fast people do, watching what separates them from the people who are slower. And obviously there's kind of a bandwidth because everyone moves different, everyone's bodies are different, but there's some commonalities that all fast people have, right? So I guess where it would start for me is, one, just seeing how they move. You have to start there, right? So if I put, like with my track kids, so at one of our first days of track practice where we had around 30 guys one day and 20 girls in one day, I've got a video on my phone of the 20 girls on a line, right? And I just taught them, we just went through a 2-point start, right? And I just basically sat on the edge of the line, filmed them like a waterfall. So the first person went, after they took a couple steps, and the next person went, and I can kind of see their initial acceleration. I can see it all the way down the line, all 20 girls. And then from there, you just you watch the film, you give them feedback, whatever it may be, give them one cue, whatever it is, or you can put them into a drill or something. Like one of the go-tos that most people use is like a wall drill. I haven't really kind of go back and forth with like different wall drills or like the A series, like A march, A skip, all that. Just how much does that actually affect an athlete's running form? I'm not 100% sold that it does, but it kind of helps me teach athletes kind of these key positions without having to sit down with them and watch, film. Just watching another sprinter run, I can kind of like put them on a wall with their hands and put them at a 45-degree angle, get them to go up on the ball of their foot, lift their knee up, and kind of teach them what that first step out of your start or that initial projection out would look like or feel like, just what that position actually feels like. And then then you just kind of go from there, whether if they're struggling with the projection, whether they're coming out too low, they're standing straight up, whatever it may be, just figuring out what each athlete is kind of struggling with and going from there. Like that's kind of where you have to start. But if you don't have the knowledge of kind of what it should look like, obviously you got to start there too as a coach, because I think most people kind of neglect speed development as a priority because we love the weight room so much. But you got to learn the basic positions that, and that's why I use Altus a lot, because they've got a great short sprints course on there that kind of goes step by step and what it should look like when an athlete accelerates, what it looks like when they get to max velocity. So kind of always just start there. And before you put athletes into, obviously, like you go to the weight room, you're not going to load them up and put them on make them do a heavy max squat, whatever it may be, right? It's not the first thing you're going to do with a kid when they go into the weight room. But sprinting wise, kids have been sprinting their whole lives. They've run fast. So I'm not afraid on the first day to even let them kind of reach top speed or whatever and just have them sprint just to see what it looks like. That way I kind of know what I'm working with. I can see what I need to change or where I can go from there. And if I'm worried about a kid getting hurt, because obviously sprinting fast at full speeds, a lot of times obviously it's overuse and the kid can get hurt that way. So we don't want that. But just to kind of get that initial feel for what the kid looks like when they sprint and kind of go from there. But as far as development wise and what a week would look like, kind of how I usually lay it out would be like Monday, they come in, we warm up, and this warm up would be, if we're doing like an acceleration type day, we'd have like wall drills in there, something like that, or a band resisted sprint to help them kind of feel those positions and then go from there. And then keep working off that. Even if we only do 3 or 4 sprints that day, I'm not afraid to come back on Tuesday and just go over the same thing, just kind of hammer that into their head so they know exactly what I want or what I'm looking for. But if we have a heavier kind of volume day, obviously we take a couple of days off and kind of go back to that, or have a lighter day where we just work on maybe that wall drill or that band resisted sprint so they can feel those positions. I don't know if that's what you're looking for there. If you have any other questions about that, I'm more than welcome to answer those.
Yeah, no. So one of the things that I remember when I went to BBA at their clinic, I just noticed Michael had all those images. I assume those from Altus, so you guys filming somebody and printing them out.
I think they were from one of Altus's kilogram method ebooks or something like that.
Yeah, there we go. But like what it was for was so that athletes could see, what ideal positioning would be. Now, like you said, not everybody's positioning is going to be exactly the same. But we should be able to see basic movement, right? And that's the idea. I mean, same with squat. Nobody's squat's going to look exactly the same, but we have basically an ideal kind of in our mind of what it should be and how to get them closer to that. And I think that's such a big deal. You're right. Strength coaches in general, they can easily see a good squat, a good clean, positioning for bench press, whatever it is. Sometimes that's not so easily seen within sprinting. And part of that might be just because of the speed, right? Yeah. So video is such a big part of that. Being able to feel those positionings, like what you said with the wall drill. Same here. I go back and forth. Does a wall drill have any carryover whatsoever? And I do it the same as you. I use it as a short tool so that they can feel the positioning, the lean.
Yeah, just to give them the context of what it feels like to be in that position.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And then I remember talking to you about all the marches, the skips, all the different movements that people are doing, that they're rhythmic. And you say, I'm not entirely sure what the carryover is, but you told me that you believe that there is carryover. Could you dive into that just a little bit? Because I would say from what I saw you do, there's resisted sprints. You can do some hill type, grade type things. Everybody knows the different ways that we can maybe load a sprint or change some sprints up, but we need to know maybe some of the supplemental things.
Yeah. I think the biggest thing from whether it be the skips, a run, whatever it may be, I think the biggest thing from that is the rhythm aspect of it and the coordination of. So, you get to ask a kid to do an A march, right? And they'll do it with lifters. I think you did it, Preston. You do
I saw
the same leg, same arm. Like, it's just a basic kind of coordination thing, but you would never sprint like that. Mm-hmm. But just getting that coordination and the rhythm aspect from doing a skip or from doing, and I got videos too. I was going to post one later today. I had my sister do it at the track. But just the A series, just kind of going through those basic positions, because they teach you. If you watch film of someone sprinting upright, right, they teach you those key positions, kind of like the wall drill does for acceleration, doing that A march, whatever it may be. They kind of teach you those key positions to let you kind of feel those, and they kind of help you develop that rhythm, coordination. But if anything, I mean, even if they don't transfer over to building a better max velocity sprint technique, I think at bare minimum, you're developing the qualities, right? Like if you do that A series, I guarantee you'll feel tightness in your hip flexors, or you'll feel your ankle, like if you're doing them right and you're landing ball your foot or flat footed, like if you see most people sprint, it's outside of the outside of their foot, they pronate off the middle, right? Or off the ball of their foot. So if you do it right, you'll start to feel it in your lower leg complex, like your calf, ankle, you'll start to feel that. So it kind of provides a general training stimulus. And that's one of the other things that I like about it, is just, especially if you implement it into the warm up, it's so easy that one, you get the rhythm, the coordination, you get the general training qualities, general training things from it as well. And then you get the context of it. Like, how does that feel to be in those positions when you're not moving at full speed? But then the next part is kind of bridging that gap over to moving at full speed, because you can do a drill all you want, but if you can't do it at full speed, then what's the point? Right. So just kind of help bridge the gap into that as you kind of go throughout the training session, and kind of helping athletes, kind of putting athletes in those situations to figure those things out.
I have one more thing with this speed related topic. One of the things you talked about, emphasize speed within your program, and then you talked about there's kind of two parts to speed. We have acceleration, and then we have max velocity, right? And I heard a coach here recently talk about how he focuses more on acceleration than he does max velocity, because within sport, you see a lot of acceleration stuff, right? And not very many times are you hitting max velocity. But I have heard coaches talk about, with improved max velocity, we'll have improved overall performance. Can you go into your thought process behind that and kind of the way that you think about it?
Yeah, I definitely see kind of starting with acceleration and then going from there, right? So I think Stu McMillan or Dan Paff, one of them says it a lot. And in acceleration, every step kind of leads into the next step, right? So if your first step's off, your second step's going to be off, right? If your second step's off, your third step's going to be off. So how can you really get into a good max velocity position if your whole acceleration is off, right? So if you know the technique, or you know what to coach, right, you can kind of help enhance that acceleration, and then you can kind of bleed that more into the max velocity aspect, where if a kid has good acceleration, then they can get into those good max velocity positions that you kind of look for. And then, obviously acceleration is one of the main, especially our high school sports, right? Other than track and field, where you have to run 100 or 200, and then max velocity comes into play. But if you, on a football field, right, most plays are what's the average football play? 7 seconds, something like that, whatever.
But let's say 5 to 7. Yeah, maybe not even decided to 7.
I mean, acceleration is going to be the biggest part of it, whether you're running back and you're going through the hole, whether you're a linebacker trying to come down on a running back, receiver bursting off the line, corner trying to read a receiver, whatever. You have to accelerate when you react to whatever, or perceive whatever they're doing, right? Volleyball, right? If you're in the back row and you have to go after a ball that might be going out of bounds, right? If you cast your leg out and you land on your heel, you're slowing yourself down, right? So if you have the basic knowledge of what acceleration should look like, if you can accelerate well, it's going to carry over well to other sports. Pretty much, I mean, every sport, right? Stealing a base, taking off after a ground ball in baseball, anything. You can go to every single sport, and that's why I think it's so important. But then, obviously, I do believe, and one of the things I emphasize, max velocity in everything that I do, right? One, at some point in the sport, you're probably going to get to, especially for a high school kid, even a high school basketball player, if they're on a fast break, they're probably going to get to a point where they reach close to their max velocity, right? Or baseball, right? If you're chasing after a fly, whatever it may be, you're probably going to get close to your max velocity. One, from a training standpoint, from an injury prevention standpoint, I think it's important to reach those things, right? Because you don't want a kid to never do it and then go to their sport and just, I got to sprint fast, right? So just putting them into those situations where they are running fast in practice, or they are running fast in training, so that they can do those things on the field, and those things will carry over. So injury prevention is a big thing, but then just obviously developing overall speed is, like I talked about earlier, it's kind of the limiting factor for most kids. If you don't have that that next gear, that next level of speed, then it's hard to be successful.
Right. Okay. I like it. I like how you broke that down. And this last question that we're going to have before the finisher, you kind of already hit on it a little bit with when you're talking about what you foresaw for the next 5 years. I'm just going to ask you how you're making the big time where you're at. What's it look like for you?
I think I'm making the big time where I'm at just by just building relationships with the kids. I try to build a positive relationship with as many kids as I can and get along with them. And I mean, at the end of the day, it's not all about sports and training. It's what do they have going on in their lives? How can I help them with anything, whether it be just anything in general, like personal problems, whatever it is, right? How can I help them? How can I find them the help that they need? That's the thing that I care about the most. So, I mean, just kind of disregarding training and coaching, whatever it may be, just helping them however that I can. And then being a resource for them, training and speed wise, and helping them become the athlete they want to be, helping them reach their goals. I think that's one of the biggest things for me. And making the big time wherever you're at is just helping kids however you can. And that's why I got into this, and that's why I love doing it.
That's great. I like the breakdown between 1 and 2, building relationships and then being a resource. Either way, it's helping people, right? And maybe we see this even more right now with being at home, being stuck at home, where we can't be around our student athletes, our students in general. It's a different feel, and that's a tough thing across our nation. It's
definitely hard. Just like, I mean, most schools have a program right now where they're delivering meals to kids, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, our schools are where the kids get their meals for the day, right?
Yep.
And a lot of times schools are the safe place for our kids. So just trying to be a positive role model the best that I can to help them however I can, right? I'm not perfect. I'm going to screw up, but at the end of the day, that's all I want, for just to help them however I can.
Heck yeah. That's good. All right, Coach. We're going to get to the finisher questions. And at the end of the finisher questions, you have the opportunity to kind of put your contact information out any way that you feel like people can get a hold of you, or you want them to reach out to you. And the finisher questions, it's just 5 quick ones. You can answer them rapid fire as much as we can. Okay. You ready?
Yep.
Awesome. All right. First one, what is your favorite book?
Favorite book, I'll probably have to go with, I'm not even all the way through it. It's a huge, super training, right? There's so many different concepts and things in it that I'm trying to make my way through, but it's a book that makes me think more than anything else. So that's kind of the book that I spend my most time on. Awesome.
I think a lot of coaches would kind of say that's one of the go-to resources. I like that.
Yeah.
How about a person that's influenced you the most?
Personally wise, I have to say my mom, dad, grandpa, and grandma, because they help raise me, and they're the most influential people that I've had in my life. But strength and conditioning, speed wise, Michael Zweifel and then Chad Gunnelson, they kind of gave me the opportunities to grow as someone in this industry or profession, and just kind of learning from them has helped me so much. I can't thank them enough.
Awesome. And how about a favorite quote?
Favorite quote. I was thinking about this one. So one of the things I used to get so annoyed, but every time before I played a game, whatever sport it was, my dad would tell me to be a good sport and have fun, right? Play hard, be a good sport and have fun. So that's kind of what I always come back to is, I mean, do things to the best of your ability, play hard, be kind, be a good sport, so be kind, be respectful, and then have fun. I used to get so annoyed every time he said it, but just kind of growing up, I kind of start to understand that now as an adult.
That's awesome. I'm happy to remember that.
No matter how annoyed that I got when he said it.
This next one, it's going to be a transition for us because this one's going to be specific to home, but you've got 15 minutes that you can train. What are you going to do right there in your house?
Go outside my house?
Yeah, you can go outside your house. Sorry.
All right. I'm going to probably go out on the street and sprint. That's that. I'll spend 15 minutes just sprint, take my time, recover, sprint again. That's what I love to do, and that's what I would prefer to spend my time. Maybe jump over some things while I'm in the middle of that if I can, if I got stuff to jump over.
Mailboxes?
What?
Mailboxes?
Yeah, I don't know if I can jump one of those. I'm not that athletic.
We'll get a pole vault out for you. You'll be able to do it. All right. Small
I was
school
high
coach.
jump. I was high jump before school got canceled. I got a pretty good freshman high jumper that hopefully if we get a little bit of a track season here, she'll do well. But I was trying to high jump with her, and I couldn't high jump when she was high jumping. It was pretty embarrassing. So
that might be a case in point where you can coach somebody to be successful and maybe not do it. So that's a good one there.
Yeah.
All right. Small school coach who's killing it and deserves a shout out.
Definitely going to have to go with Pete Tanzillo. He's at Northeast High School in Goose Lake. It's the high school that I graduated from. But over the last few years, he's really taken that program. He's they got a new weight room. They got new equipment in there. He's doing a great job of building buy-in with the kids. He's been posting great workouts for the kids to do while they're off. The kids love him. I know they do. So he's been doing an awesome job. So I think he deserves a shout out.
That's great. I'll have to reach out to him soon.
Yeah. He'd be a good one to have.
Yeah, I have seen a little bit of the stuff that he's going on, and it looks like he's got it rolling, that's good stuff, Coach. All right, to wrap this thing up, why don't you give the listeners your contact information, the things that the ways that they can get a hold of you.
Yep. So the best way to get a hold of me would be, if you want to email me, it's bhildebrandt@midland.k12.ia.us. I'm sure Preston will have that in the link or the show notes. Then Instagram, my username is Ben Hildebrandt 4. Twitter, Ben Hildebrandt 4. Facebook, I run a Midland Sports Performance page, and then my personal profile, I post a lot of stuff on there too, if you can find that. And then our accounts through Midland are Midland Strength on Instagram and Twitter. So
that's awesome.
You need to get a hold. That'd be the best place.
Okay. I will have all of that linked up in the show notes. And Coach, I appreciate you taking the time. A couple of coaches that I've talked to, they laugh. They're like, yeah, I've got time right now. So I still appreciate you coming on, sharing your knowledge. I'm hoping people reach out to you. Guys that are listening, everybody that's listening, please reach out to Coach. He does have some awesome resources. He sent me videos. He's shown me drills. He sat down and talked with me and a couple other coaches. And it is a way that you can get some applicable stuff that you can insert into your program almost from day one because of how thorough he does with teaching it. So I'm kind of putting your services out there, Coach. But
yeah, no, one of my favorite things to do is just talk to other coaches, and that's my favorite thing to do. I'll spend however much time I can doing it. So if you have any questions or just want to talk, feel free to reach out.
All right, Coach. Thanks. Have a great night.
Yep. Thanks, Preston. You too.